Coming into the ring from not the red corner, wearing neutral colours of no party politics, saviour of the beleaguered ratepayer, the underdog written off by mainstream media, the David versus Goliath, the fighter who stands up for zero rates increase with a back to basics knockout punch, nemesis of the deep state, the beating heart of the city, the steel-jaw deflecting detractors, the independent hope for the downtrodden ratepayer, yes, as our very own, the real deal, your future Mayoral champion, Chung.
Thanks everyone, it's really so great to see you here. There's so many of you. Thanks for coming out on this horrible cold night. Now, you would have recognised this music. It's taken from Rocky's first film. Now, you know what happened to Rocky. He went up against all odds. He was the underdog. Now, he went into the fight, but he wouldn't give up. Sadly, in that first movie, he didn't win, but this is where the difference between him and we are. We will win. Now, if you follow the mainstream media, you'll see that they're saying that it's a given that Andrew Little will win. That he's got that experience in Parliament. He's worked as minister, been in charge of the opposition, done all those things, and so therefore the job is his for losing. But I don't agree with that at all. I don't believe that what he's done in Parliament actually will help him to run the city. I don't think he even understands what the issues are in the city, and even more so, how he's actually going to fix them. On News Talk ZB just recently, Nick Mills said that, he said those exact words. The media believes that the path is actually clear for Andrew Little to come in now that Tory Parnell has stepped down as not running. I don't believe that for a moment. The team I'm working with and I may very well be the underdogs, but unlike Rocky, as I said, we're going to win. There's another reason why this theme is so poignant. The late and great Bob Jones used the same theme when he set up the New Zealand Party. So this is what he did, and when he came into disrupt the government, to get a change in government, he did it with this theme and with his tenacity. So Bob passed away at the beginning of May. He was a great New Zealander, a great supporter. I had lots of great engagement and exchange of stories with him. He had a very, very strong interest in local politics as well as central government. So, and of course, who can forget his little campaign for getting Carmen as the mayor. So, very appropriate that we pay tribute to him tonight. So this year, we have an election in 4 months' time. I guess that everyone always says that this election is the most important one ever. It's no different every time there's an election, but I really do believe that this election really is important. If we look at what's happened in the council for the last 10 years, we've been heading down the same direction. We really are heading into the abyss. We don't look at the amount of money that we spend and what we get from it. I'm shocked each time. You know, we're paying between 1.4 and 1.4 and $2 million in interest in supporting the money that we borrow. Every week, every single week, we're paying that sort of money. You know, 5 years ago, we only owed 400 million, but we're approaching $2 billion now. We just keep borrowing. It's just the tax and spend. You know, council and councillors view us ratepayers as just being an ATM. There's no slowing down, and I'll give you some examples of that shortly. Our city can continue along the same lines that it has been for the last 10 years. Excessive spending and borrowing, implementing ideology projects, and the result of which has been detrimental to the city's economy. You just go down, look at what the city's like now. When I come into work, I catch the bus in every day, and when I have time, I catch the bus. I don't get off the bus at Lambton Quay where I can walk across to the council building, but I'll catch it down to Willis Street or to Mount Street, then I'll get off there and walk back through the city. And I talk to the people who are on the streets end, the people who are sleeping in doorways. I ask them, why are they there? You know, what is wrong with the city that we have all these people up there now? We never had them when I was growing up, not one single one. So why have we got this problem now? And why are we doing anything about it? We're talking about it a lot. We chucked in, I think, $9 million into the budget for actually cleaning some. And then we just recently increased that to $40 million. But will it solve the problem? I don't think so. We've got groups that are out there running food distribution networks, running food kitchens, helping these people, helping feed these people, but they're getting no acknowledgement at all. So, all credit to these people. One of these people is sitting over here, Manchit, went down to his distribution food network and his food bank over the weekend. There are people like Manjit doing all the work. Thank you, Manjit. As the saying goes, you know, madness is doing the same thing over and over again and then expecting a change. Well, we continue doing the same thing and still expecting that change, but it's not going to come. So, a vote for Labour Party's Andrew Little will be a vote for the same policies as the current council. Increased costs and an ever-increasing and expanding bureaucracy. This was actually said, when Tory announced that she wasn't going to run, she said she's quite happy to hand over the reins to Andrew because their policies are the same, and their policies are the same. So what's going to change? What's he going to do? I went to his launch a couple of weeks ago, and he had all the things up there that he wants to change. And so there are things like the Quay Event Centre, the Begonia House, all the things that I've been standing for. And so I asked him, I said, well, we have a lot of things in common. We have more in common than we probably have differences. And he said, so we should, because that's where I got the information from. So a vote for Andrew Little will be a vote for more cycle lanes, carving up the city streets to the detriment of local businesses and against the will of the people. You know, I love talking to people. I love getting out there, talking to everybody, as many people as I can. I run 3 constituent meetings a month, and I talk to different people there. But also, I talk to people on the streets. When this plan about Quay Place came up, I walked along Quay Place and talked to the businesses along there. And then I had another meeting with Retail NZ, where we talked to even more retailers. And all of them said they don't want this new plan to come out from Quay Place. Every single one of them. So I said, well, and they'll ask me, who actually wants this? And I can only think of one person who wants it, Tory. So, you know, we shouldn't be looking at ideology projects. We should be doing what's important to Wellington. We should be focusing on the core business that council has, not doing all these other projects. Property owners will continue to stare down the barrel of double-digit increases if we don't make a change, eventually making the city unaffordable for many people. Now again, I've had many meetings in Wadestown. I've talked to the people there. The people in Wadestown, unfortunately, they're capital rich but cash poor. And so they're finding that the rates are going up significantly. Our rates have they've doubled in the last 5 years. They're going to double again in the next 5 years. And so they're saying that we're being moved out of our homes. We can't afford to stay there anymore. And this is the same throughout the city. Andrew Little decries the overspending by the council that is majority controlled by Labour and Green parties. But in reality, what's he actually going to do about it? We don't know. Andrew Little's plan for democracy is to undertake community impact statements for decisions. What on earth are community impact statements? It's going out to more expensive consultants, paying them a lot more money to actually come in and tell them what he already knows. What do they say about consultants? That, you know, it's someone that you actually give you a watch to tell you the time, and then they keep the watch. And so it's actually the same in council. They give you manipulated research that saw the council install a network of cycle lanes. We get told from officers at council that we've now got 4,000 people riding into town on cycle lanes. Well, I don't know where these 4,000 people are, but as I've mentioned, I come in the bus every day, I go past the cycle counter outside Spotlight on the Hub Road, and I only ever see 300 to 400 when I'm coming in. When I'm going back home again, it's about 600 or 700. So where are the 4,000? You know, maybe it's coming from the eastern suburbs, maybe it's coming from somewhere else, but I don't know where they are, and I can't understand where they get their numbers from. So, what is in Quay? You look at how many people wanted these changes in Quay. How many people actually voted against it? We had a meeting, we were listening to submissions that in the morning at council when the bulldozers had already started in Quay. So our council officers, they have to come out and do consultation. They have to take submissions. But here we were listening to submissions about this when they had already started the work. So how much did they actually listen to us? Not very much. Leadership will be contracted out to highly paid policy analysts. And so again, we're depending on these policy analysts to come and tell us how we should be doing things. If elected mayor, Andrew will preside over a continuation of similar policies espoused by the current mayor. The same policies that have kept the city in a continual debt spiral. If you look at how much we owe, and I've talked a little bit about what we owe, it's approaching $2 billion now, up from $400 million. $2 billion. And we have to continue paying for that. The next generation will have to pay for that. The election will be a decision between tax and spend policies of the party political candidates versus common sense financial management that we bring. I'll introduce you to some of the members of our team, of the Independent Together. We have some very, very good financial brains here. I'll be getting lots of numbers from them, getting shocked every time they tell me how much we're going to be spending, and we will actually stop this. We can understand where the money is going, and we will stop this. A vote for me will be a vote to bring council spending under control, to relieve the financial burden our ratepayers are suffering under. Now, I heard a little bit about what Peter was talking about. Yes, we only have one employee in the council. We only employ the CEO. But I started talking before he actually came over here, just to get an idea of where he's coming from. And in fact, I'll go back and I'm not sure whether I'm allowed to talk about our interviews with the candidates, but there were 113 applicants for the position of Chief Executive. They got that down to a short list of 15, and then we interviewed 7 of them. We asked them all the same questions, and so we asked Matt Prosser the question: if you're successful in this role as CEO, what do you think your job is? And so he said, my job is to follow the orders from councils. So to look at what you want, you make the decisions, you tell me what you want me to do, and I'll go and do it. Every other candidate said, oh, I'm going to actually make these changes, I'm going to make Wellington a tourist attractive city, I'm going to make Wellington a more sort of transport friendly city, I'm going to do all these other different things. But only Matt said that his job was actually to follow what council asked him to do. So I think that he's the right man for the job, and so I'll continue having discussions with him. I had half a day with him in the information ward. I had half a day with him, and the thing I like about spending time with going around with these people is that they're a captive audience in my car because they could hardly get out and run away. So we talked about some of the issues that are affecting Wellington, what we actually need to do, my thoughts on it. I showed him the things that I took him to Waystown, showed him the slips down there, I took him to Karori, showed him the event centre, and so I think he's got a better idea of what the issues are and what our problems are. So I'm very optimistic that even though he's our sole employee, then he will actually be quite different from his predecessor. So I'll talk a little bit about our group, Independent Together. So as well as the Mayoralty, I'm running together with a great team of people. all these people, they're all new to politics. You know, none of us are politicians. So what we all want is we want the same thing. We look at these platforms, these pillars that we have, and this was the simple thing that they had to agree on if they wanted to run as a candidate under independent together. They have to agree on and they have to believe in these platforms. And so we're not a political party. We don't believe in controlling what they do. We are all independents. Everyone has the right to say what they like, to do what they like, to get out there, as long as they believe in the same values that we believe in. These people, these candidates, they're hard-working, successful Wellingtonians who just want to give back to the city. They've run businesses, raised families, paid off mortgages, or tried to pay off mortgages, worked for community and sports groups, and now feel that they're at a stage in their lives where they can bring that experience back to the city. Talking about, I'll talk about bringing, appreciating, acknowledging the experience and bringing that experience to the city is, on the first day after the last election, the current mayor came out and said, I want this to be a council of unity. So what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to talk to all of you one-on-one, find out what your background is, find out what your experience is, and then give you the best job for Wellington, because we're here for Wellington. So I thought, well, that sounds great, and if that really happens, then we could have a great council. But of course, almost 3 years has actually passed since then. So as it was, 5 weeks later, I went down to, I had my half hour with him, so I talked to her, and so explained my experience. My background, for those of you who don't know, I've spent the last 20 odd years in international sales in the IT and telecoms area. So I've travelled the world, I've worked in 46 different countries, and I know what other cities are like. I know other cities that are well run. So then I explained to her that I've worked in major infrastructure projects, water projects, electricity projects, throughout the world. And she said, well, that's great. Wellington has a lot of problem with their infrastructure, so I'm going to give you Zealandia. But, you know, we're not using the experience of the councillors that we have in the council. What this council has actually done is every chair and every deputy chair of all the committees in council has been given to a green or a red councillor. So these councillors were chosen not for their ability, experience or knowledge, but chosen for the party that they belong to. We've got to get rid of party politics. Party politics has no part to play in local government, completely different. Central government people are there to run the country, they're there to make laws, decide what the whole country should be doing. Wellingtonians, the Wellington Council, should be there to make Wellington a better place. Stop the people leaving Wellington. We have a lot of great people in Wellington. We have a lot of really, really skilled people. I went to a meeting the other week and we were talking about all the startup industries in Wellington. And you know, where are these people going to go? As soon as they get to a certain size, they leave the city. Why do they leave the city? Because they feel that there's no opportunity here. Wellington is not business friendly. The head of Raygun came out and said, no relation to me, came out and said, if he was setting up the company now, he wouldn't set it up in Wellington, because Wellington is not business friendly. So that's where Wellington has gone. And we need to turn that around. We still have great Wellingtonians who are still here, Sir Mark down there particularly, people who care about the city, people who want to put something back in the city, and not just people who want to say, okay, what's the city going to give to me? You know, to quote John F. Kennedy, when he was talking about the Berlin Wall, was it the Berlin Wall? He was talking about, what he said was, ask not what your country will do for you, but what you can do for your country. Exactly the same with Wellingtonians. We've asked this group of candidates that we have here why they actually want to run, why they actually want to go to council, and they said they want to give something back. Exactly the same what JFK said. These are all good people who know the value of something is not dictated by the price charged by an expensive consultant. The independent councillors who have coalesced together agreed value statements that will drive their decision making around the council table. Value statements such as striving for zero rate increases. Now, zero rate increases, we keep hearing from people that, in fact, even our own councillors saying that it's impossible, you can't do it. You know, with inflation, you've got to have at least that much plus more. Everything is going up, insurance is going up. And I said, yes, all these things are going up, but so are the numbers of people at council. We've increased the numbers in council by 37% in the last 5 years. So what are all these people doing in council? This is a rhetorical question because I actually don't know the answer. And so, but we keep adding people there. Expenses keep up. You look at the OPEX, it's jumping from 600 million last year, 830 million this year. So where's this money going? I just don't know. No, but I do see some of the things that the council are doing, and I'll talk on those in a moment. So we need to get council back to basics. We need to get back to doing the things that everyone expects the council to do. Taking party politics out of local government. What's drawn these people together? I actually asked that question when I first met a lot of these people. A lot of these people they approached us and they said that, look, we're very keen in what you're doing, we're very interested in what you actually want for Wellington, and so we'd like to join you. So we talked to them and we found out what it is that they had, what it was that they offered. So all of them feel that Wellington has become unaffordable. We're losing people. Our population has gone down. We're the only metropolitan area in New Zealand where the population has gone down between the last two censuses. So, and yet, our council officers still keep coming into council and talking about, we're planning for a growth of 30 to 50,000 people. But where are these people? We're going backwards. So we need to look at what these problems are. We need to stop these problems. So we need to stop people from leaving cities. So don't any of you dare leave Wellington. So some of these councillors, they come out and say, they talk about us as being a political party. And so I just think, why do they keep saying that? Is it because they're feeling threatened? I just think that I went to the Shakespeare competitions over the weekend. Dawn is at the back there. She's the chair of the Shakespeare organisation. Really lovely lady. Go and talk to her. Nicola Willis was there as the MC, and I was there at the prize giving. And so we listened to a lot of Shakespeare plays, and so I'd like to actually quote something from there. When people complain about, comment that we're actually a political party, I actually wonder why they're actually saying it. So, quoting from Shakespeare, methinks the lady doth protest too much. My record in council, not just now, I talk to some people and they say, are you only coming out to see us now because it's election year? And people like Judy come straight back at them and says, Ray has always been out talking to people. I've had these constituent meetings, I've met with people ever since I got in council. From the second day I was in council, I started setting up these constituent meetings. And so the main reason why I actually did that was we had a briefing from Peter Boshier, the chief ombudsman then, and he explained to us, he said, especially for the new councillors, I'd just like to sort of give you some of my experience. And he said, in his view, first of all, he asked, who do you think, now that you're in council, who do you think your boss is? And so some people put their hand up and they said, the CEO, and other people put their hand up and said the mayor. And he said, no, they're not your bosses. Your bosses are the ones who actually put you into council. The constituents, they're the ones who voted you in, and they're the only ones who can take you out. So don't you forget that. Remember, that's who you should be working for. So then he said, and it's there are three types of councillors. The first type of councillor is a constituent councillor. What that councillor does is they go out and talk to people and they always ask them, what do you actually want? Are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the wrong thing? Please, tell me what you want, and then I will go out and vote that way. Even if I don't personally agree with it, I will vote that way. Second type of councillor is the ideology councillor. That type of councillor goes out and follows the ideology, follows it relentlessly, and doesn't listen to anyone that doesn't agree with their point of view. Third type of councillor is the career councillor. They're in council simply because they enjoy being there. They go there election after election, and he says in his view, they don't seem to do very much, but they go in there because they simply like being there. So he said it's up to all of us to think about what sort of councillor do we want to be, and then get out and be that councillor. So have a guess as to what sort of councillor I'm going to be. So since I've been in council, I've always opposed the wastage of money. I've worked in all these different companies, American companies, British companies, German companies, and they all say a similar sort of thing, that always treat the company money as if it was your money. Just because you're overseas somewhere, you're in a foreign city, you've got an expense account, look after that money, because this is what you're there for. You're there to achieve the objectives of the company and not go on a spending spree just because you can. So, same in council. I've looked at the things that we do and I've opposed the things that I believe are a waste of money. First of all, I oppose the $30 million safety fence that has been proposed to go around the waterfront. Absolutely not necessary. The council officers have told me that the coroner says that we must have this. We must go out and protect people from falling into the harbour. That's not right. I read the coroner's report and he doesn't say that at all. What she says is that we need to look at some of the things, some of the edges that may be more prone to people falling in and not. And also, not that we need to put fencing up, but we need to put protection. That protection we've already started doing. We're putting ladders. We've already spent $9 million. We've put ladders in there, we've put better lighting in there so that people can actually see the edges of the water and the edge of the waterfront when they walk along there. So we don't need to spend $30 million on a fence. So absolutely oppose that. You can't fence off personal responsibility. I argue this in council and I said that. In council, I said that if you think that we need to protect people because health and safety is a big issue, and they keep bringing this up. So I brought up the fact that, okay, if we're trying to protect people from hurting themselves, and yes, there's nothing wrong with that, but what happens if we fence off the whole of the waterfront? Walk down Lambton any day of the week, go down there, and you'll see people every day walking across the road without looking to see if there's any traffic coming. Either listening on their headphones or looking at something on their phone, but they walk across there. So what should we do with those people? Should we actually put a fence down Lambton Quay, Willow Street and Manor Street as well? You know, it just gets completely nonsensical. There is something called personal responsibility and we're all part of it. We should all look after things. We should be sensible when we're going out in places. So this is our responsibility. It's not the council to mollycoddle all us, and especially to spend our money doing it. One of the things that the Deputy Mayor has been pushing for is an organic recycling plant. Now, I quite like the idea that people should recycle, and that's good, but so many Wellingtonians are already recycling. They have their own compost bins at home. And so what we're planning to do is we're planning to buy 90,000 new wheelie bins so that we can distribute them throughout the city and get people to put their organic waste in there. So then we're going to go and pick it up. We're going to take it downtown into trucks that are driving up north up to this organic recycling plant, which we don't actually have here because it's going to cost another $30 million to build there. So it's going to be somewhere between Lambton and Quay. And so we're going to build this plant, we're going to take all these organic waste up there, we're going to recycle it up there. But how does this make any sense? To me, it doesn't make any sense at all. Even putting it on trucks and taking it up there. Can you imagine, we walk around our neighbourhood sort of every day and we see, on recycling days, we see pieces of paper flying around, so we pick it up. But I'm not going to be out there picking up food waste and picking up chicken bones or anything because, you know, and it's crazy because all these things will just blow over exactly the same as recycling bins do, and all it will do is attract rodents and every other pest. So it's just a crazy idea. Again, ideology. Then of course we have the Golden Mile. So and the City Street project comes to $212 million. So, but who actually wants this? Once again, we've talked to Wellingtonians and the feedback is overwhelmingly opposed to it. Yes, people want us to dolly it up a little, to change a few things on it, but not spend all this money doing it. So the argument of council, amongst the green and the red councillors, is that, we're getting half the money from NZTA, so therefore we should spend it before they change their minds and not give it to us. But I said that the money from NZTA is our money as well, it's our tax money. So it's not like something that's fallen down off a money tree. So just because they've offered it to us, we should go back and we should be saying, we've decided not to do this project, so the money you've approved, the 60 million that you've actually approved to go into this, what we'd like to do is renegotiate what we can actually put it into. Yes. And so what have they said? What's the mayor and the council said? We can't because they don't want to talk to us. Yeah, what can I say? If elected mayor with a council supporting me, I will go back to government. At last weekend's Shakespeare competition, I talked to Nicola Willis about that and says, we are happy to discuss anything. So it's not like there's a closed door from central government. It is open, so we just need to go up there with and propose something that they can actually accept. When talking about council's wasteful spending, I can't have a conversation without mentioning this. $553,000 for a bike grant. Just off the terrace here. I have someone who works up there, works in the building. I was first alerted to this by someone who parks his car in the Clifton Street, Clifton Terrace car park. So I said, I want you to find out how much you've actually paid for that, because I come past there every day and I've never ever seen a bike in there. So how much was it? So I expected something like about 30,000, 40,000 or something like that. But I got a shock when I asked for the numbers and the council officers told me, I'll give you the numbers, but you'll be pleased to know that we've actually saved $110,000 on it. I said, great, I love saving money, but you've saved $110,000? So what on earth was the budget to start with? And so eventually, I got the budget. The budget was $650,000 for a bike grant. And so, but they did a bargain for us. They did it for only $553,000. So, absolutely ludicrous. So these people that I've got working in the building next door to it, what they've been doing is, every morning and every afternoon, they've been noting down how many bikes actually park in there. Every day since July last year. The maximum number of bikes in there is 5. And so, most days, there's only 1. And also, they told me that they've actually recorded someone going into the council building in the morning and then walking across with their bike to park their bike across there. Which is really interesting because we've actually got a lock-up bike park actually in council. But of course, they may not work for council. But this bike rack holds 24 bikes. So why did we even build it to start with? It doesn't make any sense. What sort of business analysis did we actually do for that? I can't understand, why we do these things. How we even came to a decision to build this. And so when I asked them about this, they said, this is operational, it's nothing to do with councillors. So tell them to buzz off. But I'm not going to buzz off. I'm going to stop all these things. I'm going to stop this insensible spending. Zero rate increases. This has actually attracted the most vitriol from the people who oppose this. Our policy of zero rates increases has attracted considerable objection. A lot of people are saying it's impossible to achieve. It's as if uttering this phrase is heresy. We can't even be saying it. It's saying it's impossible to do, but they don't even want to look at how we're going to do it. Those who don't want the spending to end are the ones who are the most vocal, because they want to continue what they're doing. And that's why they're saying it's impossible. So I asked people, if you're unhappy with a zero rates increase, then as a policy, what sort of level of rate increase would you actually like? 18%? 15%? And they don't say anything. Because of course, everyone wants rates to be as low as possible. But of course, they still want the service to continue. They still want the council to be doing things that we need to be doing. They still want the core issues being done, and which we will do. So, but isn't it interesting that who would have thought that striving towards such an ideal would be rejected without any deliberation or objective consideration? I'll put it to every councillor and candidate, what do you consider your role is at the council table? Is it to accept that ratepayers should pay more every year for services that they receive? I don't accept that as an argument. I don't accept that it's a logical position to take. It really is an interesting concept that protecting ratepayers from the unreasonable excesses of bureaucracy should elicit such vehemence from councillors. Many, if not most of the councillors, have been sitting around the table for multiple terms, and they should themselves be looking at some of these things. They should be looking at these things and saying, yes, this is the right thing to be doing, so why haven't they been doing it? After all, these people have presided over successive council terms, and their demands on ratepayers have only ever increased. So why is that? Why don't they like the idea of even trying to do this? So year after year, ratepayers have been treated like an endless ATM machine. I say that it's time for a wholesale clean out. Our 9 independent councillors, candidates, including myself, are enough to take over the council table with a majority. That's exactly what we want, and that's exactly what we want you to consider when it comes to voting time this year. I recently received an email from a prominent Wellington businessman who said our group was perceived as being right-wing and was losing support as a result of that. So I don't understand this. Since when did a right-wing policy come out and say that ratepayers should receive value for money? Is that a right-wing policy? No. It doesn't seem like it to me. So should we accept that double-digit rate increases are the norm and just accept it? I challenge that point of view. We don't need them. The term right-wing was ascribed to the Independent Together candidates as soon as Independent Together was announced. Even before the policies were announced, they started calling us right-wing. A councillor came straight out in one of the council meetings and said that. In a poll released by Courier Market Research in February this year, 87% of Wellingtonians say that they believe the council should be getting back to the basics. So, if that's actually correct, then getting the council to focus on the core priorities, is that considered a right-wing agenda? So does that mean that 87% of Wellingtonians are right-wing? I don't think so. So, people like to put these labels on people. And of course, it's very, very easy to say that, but very much harder to prove. The fact that Wellington City Council has been taken off track by party political candidates, some of whom has absolutely no experience in governance, and want the council to deal with issues that have absolutely no relevance to its business. I oppose the council pressing ahead with a submission, a binding Wellington submission, on the council's position on the government's treaty principles bill. And I said that I believe that this has nothing to do with council. This is not council business, and we're spending half a day debating it. And so this is central government business. We should leave those things to central government. But when I debated that, after I finished debating, I was called a racist by a fellow councillor. So trying to keep the council to core priorities and not get sidetracked, it now seems to be a racist thing to do. Identity and race politics are the division bills. A council under my leadership will focus on the core business requiring a functioning city with infrastructure that works and the traditional services provided to its citizens. This includes pools, parks, libraries, community facilities, and keeping the streets safe and clean. We will do those things. These things are absolutely sacrosanct. Won't be touching them if I'm running the council. So any scaremongering that you get, that every time people talk about rate increases, council officers or councillors come back and say that, oh look, you either accept these rate increases or we'll close the libraries. They always say we'll close the libraries. And why do they say that? Because they know that libraries are important to us. I know they're important to us. And so we won't be closing any of those facilities. Cost of borrowing. Cost of borrowing. I mentioned about the Golden Mile before. Again, it's not wanted and it's not needed. And it is so much money. As I mentioned, $212 million for the City Streets program and the Golden Mile. It's just far too much. We don't need to spend it. We can spend a lot less tidying things up that actually need tidying. We can't keep borrowing money and raising the debt ceiling so that city leaders can build their legacy on vanity projects. The City Council is already close to $2 billion in debt, and that's set to rise well above that in the coming months, with a spending program proposed in the long-term plan by this council. The cost of servicing this is already $1.4 to $2 million a week, as I mentioned. A lot of people don't want to hear what we're proposing because they're afraid that the council will have to cut services, and it's just not true. Getting back to basics does not mean cutting essential services. This is what we mean when we say that getting back to basics to stop the debt spiral. We're offering a path to a safe landing, to a soft landing, If the city continues to elect egoistical political candidates, their offerings may sound sweet, but the eventual landing will be a lot harder, and our city's residents will ultimately suffer and end up paying for it. Our city will suffer from it, ratepayers will suffer from it. So the Zero Rates Roadshow. When I was elected to council in 2022, it was achieved with good old-fashioned campaigning, walking the streets, flyers, and going out and meeting people and talking to people about what their issues are. This year, this dedicated team of independents intends to make the same approach. We'll undertake more than a dozen meetings between now and the middle of July, taking our message to the voters of Wellington through our Zero Rates Roadshow. Over the next 6 weeks, we'll outline our strategy in detail about how we're going to do this, about how we intend to save you money, and how we intend to make sure that our city stays open. We'll give you the confidence that our team will help you keep your money in your own pocket and prevent the inevitable hard landing from years of excessive spending. We urge you, please come to those meetings and hear what we have to say. And come armed with questions. Very happy to look at any of these, to answer any of these. Our campaign won't be run through the media. It'll be taken directly to the people of Wellington. So we want to know what you think. We want to know what you actually want. And we will do those things. So in conclusion, I'm not a seasoned politician. Well, I'm not even a politician, really. And I'm certainly not a politician seeking redemption at the end of my parliamentary career. I consider myself a servant of the city. I want your vote so that we can ensure that the city doesn't keep spending itself into an abyss of debt that strangles our local economy. I will lead a council that uses common sense in their decision making, not ideology and race politics, their core targets. So anything that you want to say to us, we're available anytime. Our door's always open. And so please think about this, and when it comes to October, think carefully about who you're voting for. Thank you very much. Before I hand you back to Alistair, I'd like to introduce our independent together team to you. Northern Ward, Andrea Compton. Andrea. Onslow Western Ward, Lily Brown. Guy Nuns. Southern Ward, Paula Muller. Lambton Ward, Danny Millwood. Eastern Ward, Ken Quay.